Hi guys, I'm going to read to you the very last chapter of our Number the Stars book. In the last chapter, we learned that Uncle Henrik did get the Rosens and the other people that were in the boat to safety to Sweden, but the soldiers did come and search his boat. But because Anne Marie was brave and took him that package that she found, he had the handkerchief that killed the sense of smell of the dogs, and so he was able to keep the Jews hidden on his boat and get them to safety. I'm reading this book with permission from the publishing company Scholastic. We have read through 16 chapters, and so we're going to find out how the book ends today. This chapter is titled All This Long Time. The war would end. Uncle Henrik had said that, and it was true. The war ended almost 2 long years later. Anne Marie was 12. Church bells rang all over Copenhagen early that May evening. The Danish flag was raised everywhere. People stood in the streets and wept as they sang the national anthem of Denmark. So it's saying that they're crying, but I don't think they're crying for sadness. I think they're crying, those are tears of joy because they're happy that the war is over. This was a tough time for them. Anne Marie stood on the balcony of the apartment with her parents and sister and watched. Up and down the street and across the other side, she could see flags and banners in almost every window. She knew that many of those apartments were empty. For nearly 2 years now, neighbors had tended the plants, dusted the furniture, and polished the candlesticks for the Jews who had fled. Her mother had done so for the Rosens. Remember, we talked about that Mom was a caring person and she was a faithful person because she took care of her friends. She lied to the Nazi soldiers to protect Ellen. And so this also still shows that she cares for her friends. Even though her friends are not in their apartment, she still goes over there and she cleans the apartment. She dusts the apartment. She waters their plants. So she takes care of them even though they're not there. It's what friends do, Mama had said. Now neighbors had entered each unoccupied waiting apartment, opened a window, and hung a symbol of freedom there. This evening, Mrs. Johansson's face was wet with tears. Kirsty, waving a small flag, sang. Her blue eyes were bright. Even Kirsty was growing up. No longer was she a light-hearted chatterbox of a child. Now she was taller, more serious, and very thin. She looked like the pictures of Lisa at 7 in the old album. So she's no longer that little girl that believes in fairy tales and things like that. 2 years have passed, so she's grown up a little bit. Peter Nelson was dead. Remember, he's the person that was going to marry their sister Lisa. It was a painful fact to recall on this day where there was so much joy in Denmark. But Anne Marie forced herself to think of her red-headed almost brother, and how devastating the day was when they received the news that Peter had been captured and killed by the Germans in the public square in Copenhagen. He had written a letter to them from prison the night before he was killed. It had simply said that he loved them, and that he was not afraid, and that he was proud to have done what he could for his country and for the sake of all free people. He had asked in the letter to be buried beside Lisa. And so Peter was really brave. I mean, he went above and beyond. He brought those newspapers that were illegal to read at the time. He hid Jews. He brought them to safety. And he was eventually captured by the Nazis. And because even though he wasn't a Jew, he was helping the Jews. And the Nazis thought, well, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. And so they caught him and they put him in jail and they killed him because of that. But even that was not to be for Peter. the Nazis refused to return the bodies of the young men they killed. They simply buried them there where they were killed and marked the graves only with numbers. Later, Anne-Marie had gone to the place with her parents, and they had laid flowers there on the bleak, numbered ground. That night, Anne-Marie's parents told her the truth about Lisa's death at the beginning of the war. She was part of the resistance, too, Papa had explained. Part of the group that fought for our country in whatever ways they could. We didn't know, Mama added. She didn't tell us. Peter told us after she died. Oh, Papa, Anne-Marie cried. Mama, they didn't shoot Lisa, did they? The way they did Peter in the public square with people watching? She wanted to know it all, but wasn't certain that she could bear the knowledge. But Papa shook his head. She was with Peter and others in a cellar where they held secret meetings to make plans. Somehow, the Nazis found out, and they raided the place that evening. They all ran different ways, trying to escape. Some of them were shot, Mama told her sadly. Peter was shot in the arm. Do you remember Peter's arm being bandaged and in a sling at Lisa's funeral? And he wore a coat over it so that no one would notice, and a hat to hide his red hair? That's because the Nazis were looking for him. So the Nazis knew what Peter looked like at that time, and so he was having to hide his appearance to stay alive. Anne-Marie didn't remember. She hadn't even noticed. The whole day had been a blur of grief. But what about Lisa? She asked. If she wasn't shot, what happened? Remember back in a couple chapters, or back at the beginning of the book, we were told that she was hit by a car. And so now Anne-Marie's learning the truth, and so we really don't know if that's the truth yet or not. What happened? From the military car, they saw her running, and they simply ran her down. So it was true what you said. She was hit by a car. It was true, Papa told her. They were all so young, Mama said, shaking her head. She blinked, closed her eyes for a moment, and took a long, deep breath. So very, very young, with so much hope. Now, remembering Lisa, Anne-Marie looked from the balcony down into the street. She saw that below, amid the music, singing, and the sound of the church bells, people were dancing. It brought back another memory, the memory of Lisa so long ago, wearing the yellow dress, dancing with Peter on the night that they announced their engagement. She turned and went to her bedroom, where the blue trunk still stood in the corner as it had all these years. Remember Anne-Marie back when the Nazis came into their apartment? She hid something in that trunk. Anne-Marie saw the yellow dress had begun to fade. It was discolored at the edges where it had lain so long in folds. Carefully, she spread open the skirt of the dress and found the place where Ellen's necklace lay hidden in the pocket. The little Star of David still gleamed gold. So Anne-Marie took that off of Ellen's neck to save her that night that the Nazis were in the apartment. And so now that the war is over, it's probably safe to wear that now. Papa, she said, returning to the balcony where her father was standing with the others, watching the rejoicing crowd. She opened her hand and showed him the necklace. Can you fix this? I've kept it all this long time. It was Ellen's. Her father took it from her and examined the broken clasp. Yes, he said, I can fix it. When the Rosens come home, you can give it back to Ellen. Until then, Anne-Marie told him, I will wear it myself. And that's the end of Number the Stars. So I want you to think about the choice that Anne-Marie just made right now. She doesn't know where Ellen is currently. She knows that she's somewhere safe, but she can't get Ellen her necklace back to her. And so until then, she's going to wear that necklace. And to me, that just shows us another piece of evidence that Anne-Marie is a brave character. Because that Star of David was a symbol of fear for a lot of people that time. And I'm sure that that fear is still in them a little bit. But to me, it shows that she is no longer scared. And she's willing to wear that symbol because it's a symbol of freedom now to her. That everybody's free and everybody's safe. So now that we've finished this book, I want you guys to post in the comments what did you think about the last chapter. What did you think about the book completely? I'm going to start a new book next week. It's called, I just forgot the name of it. It's being shipped to me, and so I can't remember the name of it. Oh my goodness. But I will post a picture of it on our Google Classroom, and I'll read you guys the blurb sometime soon, and I'll start it next week. It's a really, really good book, though. Miss Jones and Miss Steffenbaugh recommended it to me, and I think you guys will love it. All right, until then, I miss you guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.